the Smart Woman Podcast, a podcast series brought to you by Gabriela Mueller Coaching International. Your useful dose of coaching advice to help you get what you want more often with less trouble. Gabriela dives into big questions about what matters to women like you in the workplace. It's concrete, focused, and fun. Gabriela's coaching impacts thousands of women worldwide. Welcome to the Smart Woman Podcast. Now your host, Gabriela Mueller.
Hello, welcome women from around the world. Hola, I'm Gabriela Mueller, your coach and host. And you are in the right place. The Smart Woman Podcast is where you are going to get not only inspiration, but also ideas and strategies that are going to get you more of what you want with less trouble. You're going to find less resistance. You're going to increase your buy-in from stakeholders. And life is going to be easier. And who doesn't want that, right? If you are not connected with me yet, you want to, because there are lots of benefits that I also share on my different platforms. Instagram, Coach Gabriela Mueller. Twitter, Gabriela Mueller. Facebook, Gabriela Mueller Coaching. And if you are serious about getting more tools on that leadership toolbox and you want to get even better results, you want to go and sign up for my newsletter on gabrielamueller.com. So that juicy question of today's episode is the need to be liked and also being very strategic about visible and invisible work. All right, very juicy. Something to pack, and I want you to get a lot of value in today's episode. So, do you need to be liked at work? Are you liked at work? So we are talking about that likability index, right? And if it was scaled from 1 to 10, 10 being the top, what would you say the likability index or that number would be right now for you in the office? Yes, likability is a critical factor for success. We all know that we get promoted, demoted, hired, or sometimes fired based on how likable we are or we're not. And of course, competence is part of the equation. Though for now, we're going to focus on whether we are liked, if we feel like we need to be liked, or what about the opposite? Not needing to be liked at all. And I'm sure all of us have at least one time a colleague that had exactly that. The not likable at all factor. And I can at least already remember, at least in my school time and certainly my IT telecom experience, characters that needed to be liked at any cost all the time, or characters that didn't want to or need to be liked at all by anyone. So both characters. I want you to think about, is it an important factor and why? Now, let's make sure that there is a distinction between being liked or wanted to be liked and also wanted to be respected. People who are so focused in being liked, they will most likely be missing out some opportunities to be respected. You want to be liked, of course, because people want to enjoy the work that they do with you, and striking that healthy balance is sometimes tricky, and yet it's possible. On the other hand, people who are only focused and concerned about being respected and not liked at all, then of course they will lose the support of people, collaboration suffers, and after all, when they need help, and they do, they will be lacking that tribe or that network of support if they were never concerned or focused in also being liked. Tricky, huh? Interestingly, people who strive the balance between being concerned to be liked and respected, then of course are the most successful people at work. So what's your type? Are you more concerned for people's approval and being liked, or for being more respected and being seen as competent, somebody who can deliver the job? So I'm here to tell you, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can actually strive the balance. Now, I'm going to be giving you 3 tips if you're coming from that corner where you absolutely want to be liked, and maybe results of the level of respect of people in your teams or in your organization is not really the one that you deserve and that you want for yourself. So you want to get a hold of these 3 tips. And then I'm going to give you 3 tips if you're coming from this other corner, which is the opposite, more respect and competence, but really not liked at work. So listen up. You want to look into your past as first step. And without sending you to go and get some therapy, just bring attention, raise awareness as to where this need from being liked all the time comes from. Does it come from somebody who inspired you maybe when you were a child, though then became really a need you wanted to meet all the time? Or is it something that happened to you in the first working years? What is it that makes you go that way? So raise awareness, identify either the character or the situation, and ideally write it down. Perhaps you want to write a little story, your diary, and eventually you want to let that go in the past. The woman of today who's listening to the Smart Woman podcast with me today is not the woman or that person or that child, wherever that event took place, is a different person. You have evolved and you're ready to let that go. So that's the first step. Second, balance your inclination to serve others and to be liked all the time. Take the time to choose who and where and when you are going to help and serve people. So here's what I have observed. Tons of women who need to be liked all the time in the workplace are not meeting the results, are really not getting the projects that they most want because they're not working strongly on setting boundaries. The need to be liked will be limiting that potential, your results, and eventually your future. So what you want to start doing is taking 3 seconds, or even better, 5 seconds before you answer yes to any request. So whenever a busy person, maybe Peter or even Mary or maybe somebody even at a higher level of authority comes and asks you something that perhaps is not part of your role or your position, and they're just used to getting this from you and you need to be liked all the time, and you just say yes, what you want to do next time is make a pause. Got it. That's a powerful pause. Think about it. And then if you need more time to give a definitive answer, you can say something like, hey, Peter, let me think about that. I'll get back to you this afternoon. Did you hear that? That was not an apologetic way to say it. I'm not saying sorry. I'm not sounding insecure. It was something that is a flat, good sentence, short, to the point, and I'm going to take my time. And then later, during the day, I'll get back to him and then say yes or no. And that will be a more powerful answer, more conscious. And let's face it, it's not always easy to say no to somebody, whether it's your dear friend, maybe it's even a stranger, or somebody in authority. We all have triggers, and perhaps this is yours. So you need to get that time and do not apologize. Resist the temptation to apologize, to take the time that you need to answer. And the last strategy that I want to share with you, if you're coming from this particular side, the need to be liked, is people may push back or may be upset or annoyed once you start telling them no or setting boundaries, which are going to be healthy boundaries from your side, meaning you are going to be controlling that need to be liked over time. You may experience some pushback from people. Don't worry. You are honoring your boundaries. You are actually getting what you want over time, and it might be few brief moments where you are going to feel uncomfortable, and that's a new thing, and that is okay because you are there honoring even bigger and bolder dreams for you. Don't fall for the ploy and move on. Keep it to the positive, proactive side of a conversation and move on. Now, my sisters, if you're coming from this other side where not needing to be liked is your motto and you think you're not there to win a popularity contest, then I'm here to tell you that I respect your position because you want to be perceived as very competent and somebody who can deliver, though I'm also here to tell you that you are paying certainly a price for it. And you can strive the balance between being respected and at the same time showing that other human side of you who I'm sure wants to pop out. Perhaps you think that by being more human and more connected and nicer or friendlier, you are going to then get into the situations where people might take advantage of you or even see you as a doormat. Of course, I get it. That could be a possibility if all these skills are not used wisely. Though I'm also here to tell you that it is possible. Don't be afraid of bringing that humanity also at work. Let me tell you the example of Leslie. She was leading a very international team in one of the biggest NGOs in Geneva. And you may know at this point that I live in Switzerland as well. So Geneva is 2 hours away from me, and I work with a lot of the worldwide organizations there. And Leslie, even though she has a heart that I know that is so good and so warm, she protected it at work. She just didn't want to be seen as a weak person or a doormat. Simply put, when we met, she told me, I don't want to be the doormat that everybody passes and steps on in the office. So I'd rather not be liked. Except that she was paying the high price of lack of collaboration in her team. She was seen as perfectionist, focused on only details, and her team didn't think that she cared enough for her staff and their needs. Well, needless to say, we worked and I gave her these 3 tips. They served me, they served her, and I hope they serve you whenever you find yourself between wanting to appear and show humane and only competent or respected. 1. When you need a relationship or a network, it's too late to build it. Yes, don't underestimate the power that people have to say yes when you ask them for help or when you need their collaboration, their approval, their buy-in. And don't think that they're going to do it only because you are their boss, out of obedience. And certainly, if people's hearts are not there, you are not really getting 100% of the job done by yourself or as a team. Second tip, power for women, comes from something that came up when I asked Leslie to tell me how she started her day. The typical Monday morning, how and what she was focused on, and how would she actually start meetings if she used any way to connect with her team. And so she told me she would rather take coffee breaks on her own, her little corner, be there early, leave early, and she didn't have times to socialize with her team or opportunities for networking, and if there was any, she would just strictly say no thanks. So one of the coaching tips that I have for you is you do want to invest in your network. And how you start your day, how you connect with people when you first meet them the first time during the week, it's key. One of the tips is you can use powerful questions. Questions that, again, elicit an open answer. Questions that are telling people you care for them, you care about them, not only the job. Remember, people don't care how much you know until they know that you care. Exactly, I love that quote because it's so true. So being connected with the people, being connected with who they are, and the questions don't need to be extremely personal, nor is the information that you want to share with them, though the questions can be meaningful, relevant, and sending the message of I'm interested, not only interesting. Got it? So number 3, número 3, and that would be the last thing, and this is a golden nugget piece that I have for you. Let's override the notion that people will get too familiar and too comfortable or too lazy with you if you start showing your human side, because it doesn't have to be unless you allow this to happen. And my friend, to complete this package, you want to read more about Daniel Goleman, the father, or sort of say one of the gurus of emotional intelligence, and definitely Brené Brown, who's got one of the top 10 TED Talks on TED.com, one of the most watched TED Talks in the history, because she talks about something that is at the core of what we're talking about, vulnerability, and how showing seen and being comfortable with vulnerability can only be good for you, your team, for the world, for the communities, for true human connection. And I get it. It's not something that is going to happen from one day to the next. And if it does, people are going to freak out because they won't understand why you suddenly are so nice and want to talk to them and have questions for them. Or what about our other friend who would have to adopt the first tips that I gave, a person who needs to be liked all the time, and then from one day to the next, she would start saying no to everything, right? Of course, it would get people confused, colleagues and friends would freak out. No, we don't want that. What we want is baby steps and be very smart picking your battles and wisely choosing in which moment you're going to be striking that balance between respect and also the need to be liked. All right, my friends, this is it for today. We're going to be covering questions and juicy content in the episodes to come that have to do with assertiveness, becoming a better communicator, a better negotiator, which is great and so important for women. We're going to have tips and tricks for you to make effective presentations or setting boundaries, that and much more. I leave you with a quote that is actually hanging in front of me in my office, very close to Bern in Switzerland, and behind it I see the Alps, which is great. Once I will post a picture of that, and it says, "Go for progress, not perfection." And it helps me move forward during my day, and I hope it helps you too. Go for progress, not perfection. Stay tuned. Let's connect. Twitter, Gabriela Mueller. Instagram, Coach Gabriela Mueller. Facebook, Gabriela Mueller Coaching. And if you are serious about getting more tools and better strategies every day, sign up for my newsletter under gabrielamueller.com. I wish you a successful, amazing day. Until next time, in the Smart Woman Podcast. Hasta la vista.